Hello everyone, I am Bhargav from DRAT. I'm here to explain looping statements. Generally the question is what are loops? The versatility of the computer lies in its ability to perform a set of instructions repeatedly. This involves repeating some portion of the program either a specified number of times or until a particular condition is being satisfied. This repeated operation is done through a loop control instruction. There are three methods by the way of which we can repeat a program. They are using a first statement, using a while statement, and using a do while statement. I have just completed the definition of loops. By default, if you didn't get it, I will just go these three methods and you can understand it easily, like for loop, while, and do while. So the first one would be like while loop. So I have just given a flowchart about how the program actually works. So if you just started the program and I assigned a value like a variable like count is equal to 1, and I have just given a condition like is count is less than or equal to 3. The program just waits it, and if the answer is no, it will just stop the execution of the program. If it is yes, and it will ask the user for the input of P, N, and R. So it will just calculate the simple interest like with mathematical formulae as shown, and it will just print the SI, and I have just given the increment like count is equal to count plus 1. So why do I have given this increment? So we'll just know this in the next slide. So like I have just written the code like I have just written a comment like calculation of simple interest for three sets of P, N, and R. So I have just declared a main function. So it will just like P, N, and count float R comma SA. I have just declared an initial value of count is equal to 1, and I have just written here I have using the while loop, and I have just declared the condition of count less than or equal to 3. I have used just like printf enter the value of P and R for the user. How it just executes. The program executes all statements after the while. So it will just execute after the while, which tests the condition at first, like it just executes three times. The logic for calculating simple interest is written with a pair of phrases immediately after the while keyword. These statements form what is called body of the loop. So it is called as body of the loop. The parenthesis of the while contain a condition. So long as this condition remains true, all statements within the body of the while loop keep getting executed repeatedly. To begin with, the variable count is initialized to 1, and every time the simple interest logic is executed, the value of count is incremented by 1. So I have just written count is equal to count plus 1, which means the value of count is being incremented after the execution of the code for every time, and it will just go to the again the while loop and just takes the condition if the count is less than or equal to 3, and it will just execute the program repeatedly. The variable count is many a times called either a loop counter or a index variable. So here is the tips and traps for the while loop. The general form of a while is as shown below. First I will just initialize loop counter like count is equal to 1, and I will just write while in the brackets test loop counter using a condition. I will just write a condition, and I'll just write the statements, and it is the body of the loop. As a rule, the while must test a condition that will eventually become false, otherwise the loop would be executed forever indefinitely. So I just given an example code like main int I is equal to 1 while I less than or equal to 10, printing the values of I. Okay. Here. This is an indefinite loop. So why? Since I remains equal to 1 forever, this is not the correct form, and the correct form may be like int I is equal to the same like above, but by incrementing the value of I is equal to I plus 1. So the next slides becomes like note that increment operator plus plus we can just write like I plus 1 either like plus plus increments the value of I by 1 every time the statement I plus plus gets executed. Similarly, to reduce the value of a variable by 1, a decrement operator minus minus is also available. However, never use n plus plus 3 pluses to increment the value of n by 2, since C doesn't recognize the operator plus plus plus. Note that plus equal to is compound assignment operator. It increments the value of I by 1. Similarly, j is equal to j plus 10 can also be written as j plus or equal to 10. Other compound assignment operators will be as this. In the statement while I plus plus less than 10, firstly the comparison of value of I with 10 is performed. So I plus plus is there. First, the comparison will be happen and then the incrementation of I takes place. Since the incrementation of I happens after the usage, here the plus plus operator is called post incrementation operator. While the control reaches printf, I has already been incremented, hence I must be initialized to 0. So main int I and this like in the statement while plus plus I is less than or equal to 0, firstly incrementation of 5 takes place, then the comparison of value of I with 10 is performed. Since the incrementation of I happens before users, here a plus plus operator is called pre-incrementation operator. So the next loop is for loop. Perhaps one reason why few programmers use while is that they are too busy using the for, which probably the most popular looping instruction. The for allows us to specify three things about a loop in a single line. So in a while loop, we just first need to assign, then writing the condition, then incrementing the value in three different steps. But in a for loop, we will just use these three conditions in just in one line. Setting a loop counter to an initial value, testing the loop counter to determine whether its value has reached the number of repetitions desired, increasing the value of loop counter each time the program segment within the loop has been executed. So these stuff can be understood from this single line. So general form of the first statement is as under. For I will just initialize the counter value and test the counter means condition, and if there is an increment I will just write the increment counter and open the parenthesis and just write my statements here. So here's the flowchart for my for loop. So I will just start the program and I will give a variable like count is equal to 1, and I will just check the condition like is count is less than or equal to 3. If yes, I will just input PNR values, calculate the essay and print the essay, and I will just return the this to count is equal to count plus 1. And if you know, it will just stop the execution of my program. When the first statement is executed for the first time, the value of count is set to an initial value 1. Now the condition count less than or 3 is tested. Since count is equal to 1, the condition is satisfied and the body of loop is executed for the first time. Upon reaching the closing brace of for, control is sent back to the first statement. Again, just return back to the first statement where the value of count gets incremented by 1. Again, test is performed to check whether the new value of count exceeds 3. If the value of count is still within the range of 1 to 3, the statements within the braces of for are executed again. The body of for loop continues to get executed till count doesn't exceed the final value 3. If it just executed, the control exits from the loop and is transferred to the statement immediately after the body of for. So here is an example program for loop, and you can pause the video and go through it. And the next one would be like the break statement. We often come across situations where we want to jump out of the loop instantly without waiting to get back to the conditional test. The keyword break allows us to do this. When break is encountered inside any loop, control automatically passes to the first statement after the loop. A break is usually associated with an if. As an example, let's consider the following example. I have just assigned a question like write a program to determine whether a number is prime or not. What does a prime number mean? A prime number is one which is divisible only by 1 or the number itself. So, yeah, I have just mistaken the PPT for the coding part. So, no worries, I just internet. So, I just declared the main function of integer. So, int n comma I. I just printed the value like enter the number slash interface space scanf, scanning it, and I just used the looping like for I is equal to I less than n, I plus plus. So why did I use it? If I just return for I is equal to 1, so for condition of prime, I is equal to 1. Prime numbers, like condition is like the number should be 1 and the number itself. If I just want to write for I is equal to 1, there is no need of to use for writing I is equal to 1. And the condition I have written is I less than n. So I reads all the values except n, it just reads before the values from n. I just incremented the I value, so I just return the conditions like if n percentile I is equal to 0, if n divides by the I that gives the remainder 0, I need to print like the number is not a prime. It need to break. So if I just given like I will be running the program, I have just given like reminder, so I just given the number like 8. let's say 8. So the output is like the number is not a prime. Just have printed this statement is not a prime, or it will just print the number is a prime. So what? So let's take an example like prime number 5. It will just print like just 105. So the number is a prime. How this is actually working? So what is the use of break here? So if I just delete this statement like break, and if I just run this, enter the number will be same. Alright, so I will just enter the 8, and it will give the number is not a prime, the number is a prime, the number is not a prime, the number is a prime, like some stuff else. So why is it giving? So for loop is a repeatedly statement which prints either if I just given if and percentile I is equal to 0, it prints this thing like the number is not a prime, or it just print the number is a prime. To avoid this, I have just written like break, which only prints the thing. If this condition is true, it will just print that. If this condition is true, it will just print that. Not any repeating things. Okay, I just run things. I just run. So the number is a prime. So this is the main use of the break, which breaks the statements. Okay. Okay, in some programming situations, we want to take the control to the beginning of the loop, bypassing the statements inside the loop, which have not been executed. The keyword continue allows us to do this. When continue is encountered inside any loop, control automatically passes to the beginning of the loop. A continue is usually associated with an if. As an example, let's consider the following program. Main function int ij for I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 2, I plus plus. When j is equal to 1, j less than or equal to j plus plus. If I is equal to j, I will just get and continue. Printf something. So the output of the program would be 1 to 2 1. So how this actually works? I have just given like if I is equal to j, just written continue. What this is, it will just again goes for the for loop and checks and comes down exactly if I is equal to j, continue. If I not equal to this, just prints the value I 1 2 and another one is 2 1. And how this program actually works? So again started from the beginning slides. So right, for loop completed, yeah, completed one, break statement, continue statement, and the last one is do while loop. The do while loop syntax is like do, open the parenthesis, write the statements which you want to do, and close the parenthesis, and after that while and condition and semicolon. There is a minor difference between working of a while and a do while. This difference is a place where the condition is tested, right? So you can see in the syntax clearly, the while tests the condition before executing any of the statements within the while loop. As against this, the do while tests the condition after having executed the statements within the loop. This figure might clarify your execution. It will just start, initialize, goes to the body of loop, and will get incremented, and it will just test. And if the test is false, it will just stop. And if the test is true, it will just again go to the body of loop, right? So main do printf hello there while 4 is less than 1. Is 4 is less than 1? No. But actually here the program actually gets executed and will just print like hello there, because in this program the printf would be executed once, since first the body of the loop is executed and then the condition is tested. There are some occasions when we want to execute a loop at least once, no matter what. This is illustrated in the following example. Break and continue are used with do while just as they would be in a while or a for loop. A break takes you out of the do while, bypassing the conditional test. A continue sends you straight to the test at the end of the loop. So, summary of the video is the three types of loops available in C are for, while, and do while. A break statement takes the execution control out of the loop. A continue statement skips the execution of the statement after it and takes the control to the beginning of the loop. A do while loop is used to ensure that statements within the loop are executed at least once. The plus plus operator increments the operand by 1, whereas the minus minus operator decrements it by 1. The operators so are compound assignment operators. They modify the value of the operand to the left of